One of the biggest challenges with the ketogenic diet is that really there are no cheat days allowed. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to make a meal that really feels like a cheat meal, but is 100% keto friendly and compliant. Welcome to Get It Together, and if you're new here, this channel is just me trying to figure out how to get my life together and sharing the tips and lessons I learned along the way. And as you may have gathered from the intro, today I'm going to be showing you how I make a meal that really genuinely feels totally like a cheat meal, but is completely keto friendly. The meal is a pizza topped with bacon and a dessert of a berry ice cream. I want to thank everybody who watched this video, my 5 go-to meals, and voted on which meal they wanted to see, and by a huge resounding margin, pizza was the one that y'all wanted to see. So let's get started. So the crust for this keto pizza is going to be made with cauliflower. And one of the things about this cauliflower is that we want to keep it as dry as possible. And so even from the very beginning, when we wash the cauliflower, we don't want to wash it like we typically would. So to wash it, what I do is I just take a paper towel and I kind of wet it up, and I'll take the paper towel and I'll just wipe down firmly, but not so hard as to make it crumble. Once I do that, I'm going to let it air dry. And I'll take the opportunity as it's air drying to kind of peel off the rest of these leaves. So the next step here is to break up the cauliflower kind of along its fault lines to large chunks. And of course, if you have to, just use a knife to help you along. Now that we're all done breaking everything up, we're going to be using a cheese grater, and we're going to be grating the cauliflower. Basically, we want 300 grams of this raw cauliflower. And since grated cauliflower is kind of tough to gauge by eye, food scale is pretty important. You can use any one, but if you're interested in the one that I use, link in the description below. Taking a look at the scale, getting it as close to 300 as possible, and there we go. When you're touching the cauliflower, you're gonna realize that there's a lot of moisture in here, and we wanna get as much moisture out of there so that the crust itself isn't soggy. It's gonna be a nice, pretty firm crust. So to do that, just take a frying pan, put the contents inside. Basically what we're gonna do now is we're gonna par fry it, really to get as much moisture as possible. So we're gonna head to the kitchen, put the stove on low to medium heat, and it's gonna take about 15-20 minutes. And what I like to do is I like to spread out the cauliflower bits to as flat as possible and just kind of let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes, kind of flip it, rotate it, stir it, mix it together, let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes, and do that 7-8 times. So we just done par frying, and I just want to be very clear here for a moment that it doesn't have to be bone dry. There's still going to be some moisture. The whole point of this is that you're getting rid of as much moisture as possible. Don't overdo it. You don't want it to be like crispy, hard cauliflower. So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to take our tray back. We're going to empty all of the cauliflower back in, because now we're just going to be mixing the only other 2 ingredients necessary for the crust itself, which is 1 egg and a cup of cheese. And it's not a real cup of cheese. I'm using Parmesan here. The main thing is these are kind of pre-shaved chunks. And as you can see, there's quite a lot of negative space in there. And so I just kind of fill it up to the top. But basically what you're trying to look for in general is to put the cheese in there and just have the mound to be about half the amount of the cauliflower. And then for the egg, we're just gonna poke a little hole in the center, just make a little bit of a crater. Crack the egg. In it goes. And now we're just gonna be using a spoon here, and we're just gonna mix everything together. Now, for the cheese itself, you don't have to like really grind it down, but for the larger chunks, you just wanna kind of start breaking up the cheese as you're stirring and as you're mixing everything together. So we're just about done here, and you really wanna mound it out. And I just want you guys to kind of pay attention over here that there are still pretty large chunks of Parmesan in there. And that's one of the things I really actually love about this recipe, because when it's not completely all the same size, it really gives a nice rustic feel, right? It really feels like grandma made it. So we're gonna have to create the crust on parchment paper. Now, please make sure you're using parchment paper. I made the mistake of using wax paper the first time, thinking it was the same thing, and it was impossibly stuck. Now, for the purposes of this video, I already cut it into a circle here, as you can see, to kind of fit inside of this pizza pan. But basically what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be taking this entire mound here, and we're gonna place it kind of in the center of the parchment paper. So once it's all on there, gather everything into the center. Really nicely compress it into a half dome or something like that. And I really mean compress it, just like pack it in, to the point where you actually feel like moisture kind of like squeezing out. And from here, you're just gonna be pressing down from the center, and you're just gonna evenly start massaging it out to the edges of the pan. Now, the thickness you're trying to go for is really quite thin. You want this to be a thin crust pizza. Again, like as you're pushing it down, you're really gonna feel that there's still quite a lot of moisture in there from the egg, from the cauliflower itself, even though it was par fried. So we're more or less done here, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna preheat the oven to 395 degrees Fahrenheit and set it to 16 minutes. Again, this is one of those things where the first time you do it, you're gonna have to babysit it yourself, but for my oven, or my toaster oven rather, completely preheat it to 395 degrees Fahrenheit and 16 minutes on the timer, and we'll be good. All right, so while that's kind of taking place, what I'm gonna be doing as the crust is baking, I'm just gonna take 2 strips of bacon, I'm just gonna cut away, and basically I'm just gonna be making a bacon pizza. That's the only topping. Finish separating them out. I'm gonna put this in the fridge, and also from just a hygiene and sanitary perspective, we're gonna do an instant wipe down and just kind of Lysol this cutting board as well right away. All right, we're back here. And let's take a look at that crust after it's been baked. This is what you're kind of trying to go for. You want to go for a nice golden color, and obviously there's going to be some darker brown spots where the larger chunks of cheese was. And if you look at the edge, you just want to make sure that nothing's really quite burnt. And the great thing about this is that we can just leave it in here and we can top it as we'd like. But I'm just going to peel back the crust right now. It is quite flimsy, but just peeling it back, you can also see the bottom, similar consistency from the top. And you just want to make sure that the structural integrity is there, meaning if you went to peel it back and things started crumbling, that's not good. I'm going to quickly go get the toppings, and we're going to top up the pizza. We have some pre-shredded mozzarella cheese right over here, and we also have just a tomato sauce. What I recommend, this is a tomato basil sauce just from any regular supermarket. But the main thing is just to look at the ingredients and just to validate that there's no additional sugars being used, and you'll be good. I don't use a lot. I just use 1.5 tablespoons, somewhere around there. And just spread it out evenly. Again, this is not, like a real legitimate pizza crust. So we don't want to put too much sauce on there because as you guys saw from before, it really is kind of like, a little bit more of a flimsy crust. Now it is going to firm up more the second time we bake it, but it's just one of those things where we just want to be cognizant of this and just make sure that we're not going nuts with the sauce. Now that that's evenly spread, take our cheese, and I have about between 1/3 and a half cup of pre-shredded mozzarella. Might not use the whole thing, but again, we just want a thin, even coating throughout. This is also one of those things where you don't want to overkill it because overdoing it, again, similar to too much tomato sauce, is going to make it too soggy. But I can assure you that the overall flavor profile and the actual experience itself really does mirror that of a real pizza. Now, just top it up, and again, I use bacon here, and just kind of evenly spread throughout. While I'm doing this, because this is typically a pretty quick process, I will have already started to preheat my oven, again at 395 degrees. And because there's raw meat on this pizza, I'm just setting it again at 15-16 minutes. But if this were just a cheese pizza or it was a veggie pizza, you're good with just 11-12 minutes. Preheating's done. I'm gonna walk this over, I'm gonna put it into the oven. All right. Would you look at that? I'm gonna take this mitten off. But yeah, basically there you have it. It really is just like pizza. Got a piece of wax paper here. Let's kind of take this entire parchment paper section, place it on top. Down the center we go. I'm trying to make this perfect for the video, but it's usually not like this. And there we go. One bacon cauliflower crust pizza. But there's still dessert, right? Let's figure that out. So for dessert, I like to do a blackberry or raspberry ice cream. Again, you may know already that for the ketogenic diet, blackberries and raspberries are sort of the best kind of fruits to have. So they're totally keto safe as long as it's done in moderation. And we're definitely going with moderation today. So with my food scale, I already measured it out, but basically for one portion size, it is 70 grams of frozen berries. So I just get these organic frozen blackberries or raspberries. What's happening is we're gonna take full fat cream. It's really important to use heavy cream, which is 35% milk fat or above. And for this, I'm gonna use anywhere between 4 and 5 tablespoons of this. And so that was just under 4 tablespoons. In terms of the level, you want a little bit of berries poking out from the top. When it comes to sweetening, the best sweetener to be using is erythritol. There are 0 calories, and it's a sugar alcohol, and erythritol has like this kind of scary scientific chemical sounding name, but it is not. And me personally, I just get the powdered, I get the powdered version. There's the granulated version that's more like sugar straight up. I'm just gonna take a whopping tablespoon, and you could just do this to taste. I don't like it way too sweet. This is just for a Nutri-Ninja, and I'm just gonna spin it up, and I'll be right back to show you guys the results. All right, we're right back. That was pretty quick, but let's open it up. And there we go, look at that. Just an awesome blackberry, it's nice and sweet. It's really rich and creamy with that 35% cream. And combined with the pizza, you really can't go wrong. The combination of this entire bacon-topped cauliflower crust pizza along with that blackberry ice cream, it clocks in combined with 1,380 calories, 100 grams of fat in total, 27 grams of carbs only, and 67 grams of protein total. I also want to make mention that if you want to really have a true cheat day experience, not sponsored, obviously, but Zevia branded sodas, they are sweetened with stevia, totally keto compliant, 0 calories, basically 0 anything on the nutrition label. And so if you're feeling like you just really want a cheat day, I think it's pretty clear to see that a combination of this pizza, a soda, ice cream, that really feels like a cheat day. But again, it's completely 100% keto compliant. When it comes to all the tools and stuff like the erythritol, things like that I use to make this cheat day meal, I've linked all of them in the description below. If you got value out of this video, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.